Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Product Owner episode and TGIF episode. Happy Friday everybody. And this week we have with us Esther Schmit. Hey Esther, welcome back.
Hi, happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. So Friday is Product Owner Day and we want to explore what are great product owners like. But first, of course, a very interesting question, not always a very easy question to tackle, but what was for you, potentially, Esther, the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career?
Well, I think it's most difficult to become a product owner when you were part of that team as a technical working as a developer in a team, because then you still go into this pitfall of wanting to have too much influence and advice. You still think along, and you want to join the poker sessions, and and getting rid out of a PO. I think that is very difficult because they still have their mind. They think, oh, you should do this or you should that, and I think that is quite a pitfall of a PO when you come from that team.
So what should we look for? Like if let's imagine that, look out there, our faithful Scrum Master, probably dealing with a case exactly like this, where a developer or even a tester has now become the product owner for that team. What should be looking for? Like what are the signs that maybe this PO is kind of falling into that pitfall you just described? What are the things we should keep our eyes open for?
Well, you keep your eyes mainly open, especially, on this pitfall being too technical. Of course, the planning session and the refinement session, especially the refinement session, if they are giving too much of their opinion, and watch them, and also on, of course, Teams channels. There's also discussions going on. And of course, he needs to ask questions and he needs to answer questions, but he should not influence the team too much, and work along with them as well, at least in my opinion, because then you cannot be too good of a PO, I think.
So if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that we should look for a very good level of interaction between the PO and the team, but we should be careful that interaction doesn't go into the PO answering all of the questions of the team. I mean, maybe some of the questions related to what they are trying to achieve, but not, and I guess this is implicit, but you didn't say it, but I understood, not related to the decisions the team needs to make about maybe architecture or other more technical decisions. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. The PO is the one that is talking, of course, to the customer or the stakeholders what they want. So they need to know what the customer wants, and they need to explicitly explain that to the team. And with that information, the team needs to pick these things up. And so if the team has questions or doesn't know what's exactly needed, of course they need to talk to the PO, but it's more on what the stakeholder really wants, and make sure that is what they will be doing, and picking up, and I think that is important. And then also, of course, he needs to make sure that what they're doing or will be doing is what the customer actually wants, or the stakeholder actually really wants.
So one way to put it, I don't know if that's what you meant, but how I'm translating this is, one way to put it is that the PO should be talking about what the customer is struggling with, like what are the problems, or what goals the customer have, but not describing, for example, what kind of user interface the customer wants to have, right? Because we could use the customer as POs to kind of hide the fact that we are actually directing the team on what to do.
Yes. Yeah, it's sometimes it's a fine line, and I think that's why it's so difficult as well. But yeah, just watch the PO, how they're what's he doing, and he needs not to. Yeah, I don't know. It's very difficult because he just also doesn't need to influence the team on how he thinks that it should be done. It's the team because he's not gonna work on it. The team is working on it. So if the team wants to go, on site A, and the PO thinks, oh yeah, but I think, the B's way is a lot better. And then the team might think, oh, okay, well, he thinks B is better. So we will have to do, yeah, we'll go for the B one then. We don't really want to because we think A is better. And that's what I mean is that they might, he might influence them too much.
And the difficulty here is, when does that influence become too much? So the way I translate this in my mind is that it's perfectly okay for a PO to share knowledge about the customer, but not okay for the PO to share what the solution should be. Now, it's perfectly okay for a PO to say, hey, but if we do it that way, then the customer cannot achieve this goal that they have. Right. And then the team can come back and say, no, they can't because, right. Like that kind of conversation, I think it's very healthy because that is talking about expectations and potential consequences of decisions, but it's not taking the ownership of the decision to the PO about the solution.
Yeah, correct. I mean, if you, as a PO, I think you would say, okay, well, we cannot do this or this because, as you said, this is not going to help the customer in his solution, or the customer mentioned, he doesn't want this. Yeah, I don't know if you know this story about if you, for example, a customer wants to cross a river, so you want to cross the river, and he will. Of course, there's so many ways in crossing the river. You can walk across the river, you can swim across the river, you can build a bridge across the river, you can you can build a rowing boat, anything you can possibly think of, or just throw in a lot of sand and then he can still drive across it. So, but all you can do is like, okay, the team needs to decide on how to do it, which one they will take. But the customer can say, okay, I do not want to get wet. That's one thing. I do not want to get wet. So you cannot swim, you cannot walk across because then I will get wet. So I think that is what the PO should say. Okay, well, these solutions are not possible because then we cannot reach the goal of the customer.
And as you were describing that, I was just thinking that a lot of this conflict and misunderstandings come from us not having a shared understanding of what the PO role is, right? Because in this specific example, the PO might expect that they are actually technical leads, while the team or the Scrum Master, in your case, does not want them to be technical leads. You want them to be customer advocates, right? And I think that having like the story of the crossing of the river that you just shared is a great metaphor for us to discuss. Okay, but where does the line get drawn about what the product owner can decide, right? And I think that's a great story or a great metaphor to have that conversation within the team. Now, there aren't only bad POs, there are also amazing, awesome product owner. So let's celebrate one of those, Esther. The best product owner you've ever worked with. How did they work?
I loved working with a student. Actually, he was in a student program, and he became PO. And he was so eager to learn and to listen and to work along and help the team, and it was such a joy to work with him. I think maybe because he was so young, I don't know, but he was so eager to learn and to help the team become better. And yeah, I really love that with him, that he really was there for the team and also, of course, for the stakeholder. Yeah, I loved working with him.
What do you think changes when we bring, as product owners, when we bring that eagerness to learn and to help the team into the system? Like what changes?
Well, I think what changes is the team changes as well. They become eager as well. I think if you are motivational and cheering and enthusiastic, then others become that as well, because sometimes you mirror yourself with others and you take a bit of what other people do. So if you have a PO that has a lack of communication or is very annoying or very too much, trying to take control, then that will influence the team too much, and people will start doing a bit the same as well. Like you earlier described as well this week, that if you are a enthusiastic person, people will become enthusiastic. And that goes for anything, I think. So if you are enthusiastic and happy, then people are like, oh, okay, cool. Then it's like the sun is shining. But if somebody's there and they're really boring and they're really and then the team becomes that as well, then, we don't really need to do anything. So yeah, we can take it all easy. And of course you need to take it easy, but that is so much of a difference to do. And not just the PO. I think that goes for everybody. If you show enthusiasm, then people will become enthusiastic.
Yeah, absolutely. The energy we bring to the system is very important. Esther, we're about to end. It was a great week of episodes and lots of tips and stories this week. So thank you for sharing that. But if people want to connect with you and learn more about you, where should they go?
Well, they can go to LinkedIn, of course, Esther Schmit. You can see the name probably in the
show notes. Absolutely,
show notes. Of course, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a company called Agile Pro Center, so you can check that website out, agileprocenter.com. And I organize the online Scrum Master Summit once a year, so you can check that one out as well, onlinescrummastersummit.com. And I also have a great website that is showing all Agile gatherings, so all conferences, and that is agilegatherings.com. That's where you can find me as well. So those are my three day keepers that will keep me busy during the day.
And we will put the link to all of those in the show notes, so check them out. Esther, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Well, thank you. It's been a great experience. First time I've been in a podcast, and it's been great. So thank you so much, Vasco.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. So join us at scrummasterpodcast.com and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more full week of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.